video is brought to you by Eureka Ergonomics' new Matthias office chair, so do expect to hear from them during the video. Gamers, what a week. Oh my god, a Silent Hill F review, a Pokemon ZA preview, a Sony showcase, an Xbox price hike, Kojima releases his own credit card. They're calling it Death Stranding. Man, honestly, in this business, when it rains, it pours, and September and October are typically very, very wet months with lots of big releases, and damn, I really should have proofread that more closely. All right, we got way too much to get to now, so let's not waste any more time. Here comes the news. It's a damn good thing we're dropping this show on a Friday because Sony just did the typical Sony and Nintendo thing by announcing a big showcase just 40 hours ahead of time. Being the state of play that accompanied the Tokyo Game Show, there was unsurprisingly a big chunky middle section that was devoted to Japanese games, both brand new and previously announced. Funny thing though is that they broadcasted hours before anyone in Japan would have even been awake, which really goes to show you where their priorities lie. And look, hard to blame them here when they wanted to bookend the showcase with two of their upcoming first-party titles from Western developers, Insomniac's Wolverine for the big finish, and Housemarque's Saros to kick things off. So yeah, Saros, if you liked Housemarque's Returnal, then you're going to be very happy to know that Saros looks very similar to Returnal in terms of gameplay, only it's red. I did see some chatter that was a little surprised at this fact, but honestly, I'm not sure that Sony would let their studios do anything other than play to their proven strengths. It's a third-person bullet hell shooter that brings a lot of their shoot-'em-up arcade roots into the AAA space with a narrative that will slowly unravel itself as you live, die, repeat, and push your limits to the edge of tomorrow. Rahul Kohli plays protagonist Arjun as he explores the hostile planet, which is filled with some very impressive-looking celestial enemies. They also announced a release date for this thing, March 20th next year. I absolutely loved Returnal. It was just S tier right the way through. Couldn't get enough of it, so needless to say, I'm extremely pumped for this one. A couple of new trailers and surprises followed after this. Right after Saros was a new trailer that gave us a look at Zero Parades, which is the next RPG from Disco Elysium studio Zaum, though it is worth remembering that almost none of the Disco Elysium developers are there anymore. And then there's that whole legal drama, which we don't have time to get into now. It looks very much like Disco Elysium at first glance, though of course with a few tweaks, and it follows an operative as she works to put together a new crew and untangle some kind of conspiracy, slated for 2026 and obviously now coming to PS5 as well as PC. Next up was Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which sees Xbox throw yet another one of its once precious console exclusives over to PlayStation. This is arriving on December 8th of this year, but the real kicker is that it's going to support PSVR 2, which is going to be a huge boon for both the game and the PSVR 2 in general, because those flight sim fans, they spare no expense. That's coming with a free update in 2026, if anyone still has a headset by then. Finishing off the Western developers block, Aspyr announced Deus Ex Remastered. That's due February 5th next year for all platforms. The asymmetrical multiplayer horror game based on John Carpenter's Halloween got a release date all the way over in September of next year. And The Last Epoch announced it was coming to PS5 alongside its first expansion, Orbis, at an unspecified date. Getting into the Japanese part of the State of Play webinar, they kicked things off with a free-to-play anime game adaptation. Of course they did. I'm told that The Seven Deadly Sins is a very popular anime, and Origin is basically like an open-world Genshin Impact-like RPG with lots of live sim elements. That's coming Jan 28th for PS5, PC, and mobile. Koei Tecmo joined the party next to announce the release date for Neo 3. That's February 26th next year. That's looking great. And they also announced Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered. That might seem like a random one if you're not really into these sorts of games, but Ed tells me that Dynasty Warriors 3 was the big one that really juiced up the series and put it on the map back in 2001. That one's due out March 19th next year, aka my birthday. Bandai Namco also announced a release date for the vampire action RPG Code Vein 2. That's January 30th next year. And this next one was a real surprise. Let It Die Inferno, another sequel to the third-person competitive multiplayer hack and slash series originally developed by Grasshopper Manufacture. This series definitely falls into the cult category with its general jankiness and punky aesthetic, but Let It Die apparently has plenty of legit fans, including Shuhei Yoshida. Inferno looks a little more polished at first glance, and unsurprisingly, it's taking some pretty in vogue elements from roguelite and extraction shooters. That's due out December 3rd this year. A really nice platformer called Chronoscript was shown next, which takes place within the dark, inky pages of a manuscript, and that was followed up by a release date for Crimson Desert, which announced a delay a little while ago, but is now slated for March 19th next year, aka my birthday. Happy birthday to me. Gran Turismo creator Kaz Yamauchi then came on to announce a big new update for Gran Turismo 7 for the end of the year and shared that the series has now sold 100 million copies in its lifetime. And then it was time for the big fella, or little fella if we're being comic book accurate. Roll it, Stu.
Death's always waiting. Just not for me.
That's right, ladies and gents, Insomniac debuted our first official non-leaked look at Wolverine. And man, if you thought this game was going to be rated T for teen like Spider-Man to get all the Marvel kiddies in there, then boy, were you wrong. It took less than 5 seconds to see Wolverine plow his claws through someone's skull, and he just kept going, Clearly, Insomniac saw Naughty Dog pushing things with The Last of Us 2 and we're like, yeah, we can definitely one-up that. We see Logan in various costumes, dismembering enemies, traveling to different locations across the world, and meeting other X-Men characters like Omega Red, Mystique, and there's even a Sentinel in there at the end. Sony finished things off with a little featurette about the making of the game, which revealed that Australian actor Liam McIntyre would be playing Wolverine, because we all know that Wolverine needs to be played by an Australian. It's just the rules. He's best known for playing JD in Gears of War, Spartacus in the Spartacus TV series, a few other things too, and of course, he was on an episode of Neighbours, because that's just the way things happen down here. Wolverine got a release window of Northern Fall 2026, and Insomniac said that there will be more info coming in Northern Spring 2026, which is, second quarter of the year for anyone not in the Northern Hemisphere. So look, I think this was a show that was really carried by those first-party Sony announcements, which is kind of unusual in the modern era, since Sony's release cadence has slowed considerably out of its first-party studios. I think Saros looks sick as hell, and it's easily one of my most anticipated titles, and I think the fact that Insomniac are going comic book accurate and full gore is a really nice line break between their take and that of the MCU. Or the Sony CU, you know what I mean. Plus, they're keeping the Aussie Wolverine tradition alive, and I personally appreciate that a lot. Sony wasn't the only platform to give us a Tokyo Game Show showcase, of course. Microsoft also came to the table, complete with a broadcast that actually happened during Japan-friendly time slots. They too mostly crammed in a block of third-party Japanese games into the middle of the showcase burger. But the meat of it all was really just Japanese-themed updates for a lot of their first-party games, with the cherry on top being that one last thing reveal of Forza Horizon 6, which, as we probably all know by now, is being set in Japan. Microsoft didn't show much of Forza, unfortunately, just a CG trailer that was basically a slow pan across a workshop that eventually ended with a shot of Mount Fuji, which kind of really reminded me of the trailer for that now cancelled Avalanche game, Contraband. Probably not a flattering comparison. Matt Booty did make sure to pay some lip service to what remains of Turn 10 alongside Playground Games, but since details of the new setting have been floating around for quite some time, and Microsoft didn't really give us any further details than that, this kind of felt a little flat if I'm being honest, and I would have loved to have seen some gameplay. I don't think it would have been unreasonable to request that, given, Tokyo Game Show is the perfect place to actually show the game rather than just the logo for it. But hey, what do I know? Treyarch was willing to share some details though. Right before the Forza reveal, Xbox's big thing was 2 Japanese-themed multiplayer maps for Call of Duty Black Ops 7, which, sure, they look really nice, but I don't know how excited I can let myself get about a meticulously detailed karaoke bar when I'm going to be running through that at a breakneck pace trying not to get shot. The rest of Xbox's Japan-themed updates included a look at the Japanese expansion for Age of Mythology, a Japan World update for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and showing off a bunch of Japanese-themed campsites in Fallout 76. Alrighty then. Koei Tecmo and Platinum Games dropped by with a new look at Ninja Gaiden 4. We also saw a little more of Fatal Frame 2 from Square Enix, and Capcom had a few trailers in there for Dragon Quest 1 and 2 and Monster Hunter, but to Xbox's credit, they also spent some time focusing on developers from the rest of Asia too. Korean studio Iggy Mob opened the show with Gungrave Gore Blood Heat, a remake of the game they released back in 2022. Man, Naughty Dog's gotta be pissed off that someone's beating them in the time to remake category. The fantasy extraction game Mistfall Hunter from China also made an appearance, as did a few other free-to-play games like Anemo, which is a new one from Netmarble. There was also this indie game from Malaysia called Rhythm Doctor, which almost gave me a seizure, but it looked cool. So overall, a long showcase with a lot of stuff in it, but not a lot to really write home about. Had we got a proper look at Forza, I might have felt different. This really did feel like it was missing anything that Xbox could truly hang its hat on. Plus, you might have also noticed a lot of those trailers readily showed PS5 and Switch logos, since Xbox seems totally fine with that at this point. Oh, and there was another logo I spotted during the Xbox showcase, but I'll save mention of that for our feel-good story of the week. Pivoting now to other news, and it's time to check in with the famous Japanese financier, Hideo Kojima. Why is he a financier, you ask? Well, it's because he just announced, and this is not a joke, that he's releasing a Hideo Kojima credit card, which allows users to earn points that they can spend on Kojima merchandise. Which merchandise, you ask? Well, how about some actual, real, 100% authentic Kojima sake? Now you can buy your verification Kojima sake with your genuine Kojima credit card while watching Sam Porter Bridges crush cans of Monster Energy onto his forehead. People always say that Kojima's games are a window into the future, but look to his line of luxury goods and financial products to see where things are really headed. All of these announcements came during a special Beyond the Strand live stream presentation where Kojima made a bunch of announcements, and wouldn't you know it, some of them were even about video games. Like, remember OD, that Xbox published horror game? Sure you do. Well, here's your first proper look at it. Roll it, Stu. Yeah, man, this just looks creepy as hell. Only Kojima could make a short teaser of a girl lighting candles this terrifying. Still a lot of mystery surrounding this one, but we do know that it's a first-person horror game built in Unreal and published by Xbox Game Studios. Jordan Peele, famed director behind horror films such as Get Out and Us, is a noted contributor, and yeah, you can definitely see why he'd be interested in a project like this. We also had confirmation that it stars Sophia Lillis, who you may recognize from It and the recent Dungeons & Dragons film, as well as Udo Kier and Hunter Schafer. Some serious PT vibes going on here, and that is awesome, since that game sadly never got more than a demo, and then Konami deleted that demo when they were going through that whole we fucking suck phase. Next up was a poster for Kojima's return to tactical espionage action Fizzant, featuring a very Adam Jensen looking dude and the tagline, "Here comes the feeling." Oh, I am feeling the feeling, all right. It's said to be an espionage thriller revolving around stealth gameplay, very much a spiritual successor to Metal Gear in that way. We also got details about the preliminary cast, which features Australian actress Charlie Fraser, who you would have seen in Furiosa, alongside Don Lee and Minami Hamabe. I know I've only seen a single piece of key art for this, but I'm already at the point where I'm ready to base my entire personality on whatever this ends up being. I'm all in. We were then treated to an announcement trailer for Death Stranding Mosquito, an animation project set in the world of Death Stranding that looks to be a 3D animation, but with quite a unique looking hand-drawn sketchbook look to it. Being directed by Hiroshi Miyamoto and written by Aaron Guzikowski, creator of the sci-fi series Raised by Wolves. He's also credited as the writer of the 2013 film Prisoners, which was a very intense film. Seems like the perfect fit for a Death Stranding project. Finally, Kojima Productions announced a partnership with Niantic, former developers of Pokemon Go. From the concept trailer, it looks like they're taking on a similar augmented reality project, which Kojima himself describes as Death Stranding in the real world. And yeah, to be honest, I can definitely see how that could work. You know, leaving messages and items in the real world for other people to find could be pretty cool. Seems to also be reliant on a pair of AR glasses though, so I do wonder if Kojima has a secret partnership with Meta in the works. God, I would hate to have to give Zuck money for anything, but god damn it, I will do it for Kojima. I will put it on my Kojima credit card and wash away the guilt with some Kojima sake. Kojima's OD is being published by Xbox, and they've got some big news to share this week, other than what they showed in the Tokyo Game Show presentation. They're increasing the price of the Xbox. Wait, what? That can't be right. Ed, did you put that story from back in May in this week's run sheet? No? But they just did a price increase a few months ago. What? Oh, Ed's telling me it doesn't matter what they raise the price to because no one's buying Xboxes anyway. Fair call. Here's the detail. On the official website, they posted thusly, quote, "Beginning on October 3rd, we will update the recommended retail price for Series S and Series X consoles in the United States due to changes in the macroeconomic environment," end quote. I wonder what macroeconomic environmental factors they're referring to, but I'm pretty sure it starts with a T and ends with a rumps tariffs. While the cost of accessories will remain the same, as will products in non-US markets, those in the US will see all Xbox consoles increase by around 5 to 10% depending on the model. Xbox Series S consoles are up $20, the base Series X and all digital version are up $50, and the Xbox Series X 2TB Galaxy Black Special Edition, which is a real mouthful to say by the way, that sees an increase of $70. I will reiterate that this is the second price increase for Xbox consoles in 2025. Microsoft raised the price of consoles and accessories globally back in May, citing market conditions and the rising cost of development, and that was already quite a significant jump. To put things in perspective, the Galaxy Black Special Edition used to cost $600 and now sets you back a whopping $800. That's a roughly 30% increase since its release, making it now more expensive than the PS5 Pro, a console that can run most new titles at 60 FPS on quality mode, while the Xbox Series X cannot. So that is pretty not great. Long gone, it seems, the days of consoles getting cheaper over time, making them more attractive to those who couldn't afford them at launch. Microsoft don't seem too phased about the potential loss in customers though, since it's clear that they don't really care all that much about their hardware sales at this point. The bottom of their statement reads, quote, "We understand that these changes are challenging and they were made with careful consideration. Looking ahead, we will continue to focus on offering more ways to play more games across any screen and providing value for Xbox players," end quote. That last line echoes their strategy over the last few years. They've had little interest in boosting sales of their consoles. It's really been about selling people on their software platforms such as cloud gaming and Game Pass, as well as their first-party titles which have since been released on competing platforms. Microsoft moved on from the console wars a while ago, so while these price hikes are no doubt going to lead to plenty of sticker shock, it's not like many people were looking at those stickers in the first place. Speaking of shocking, Randy pitched for jump scare. Sorry about that. I really should have warned you. But you know what? This week in video games is a premium show for premium gamers, so I think you guys can handle it. Anyway, why am I subjecting you to unsolicited images of Randy Pitchford? Well, it's because Gearbox has just indefinitely delayed Borderlands 4 on the Switch. That's right, just a week before Borderlands 4 was set to release on the Nintendo handheld, it's been delayed indefinitely with all digital pre-orders cancelled and refunded. This news comes courtesy of Gearbox themselves, who posted to Twitter the following quote, "Greetings, Vault Hunters. We need to share that the release of Borderlands 4 on Nintendo Switch 2 is being delayed. We do not take this decision lightly, but we are committed to ensuring we deliver the best possible experience to our fans, and the game needs additional development and polish time to do that. Our hope is to also better align this release with the addition of cross-saves, which we are working on and recognize is very important. We will update you all on the new release timing once we have fully adjusted our plans," end quote. Not at all surprising, to be honest, as Austin pointed out in his review, performance is still woeful for most people, and if it's struggling to run as well as it should on even the most cutting-edge PCs, then yeah, there was absolutely no way this thing was going to run well on a handheld device. Do recall that the Switch 2 port was announced by Randy Pitchford himself earlier this year in a video he uploaded to Twitter, one in which he films himself getting up from a literal throne and yaps about how excited he is for the Switch 2 port. My guess is that the PC and other console ports need Gearbox's full attention and will require it for some time yet, so I wouldn't be counting on a Switch 2 release anytime soon. Turning to some lawsuit news now, and you may recall a little while ago that Sony went after Tencent following the announcement of their new survival action game titled Light of Motorum. Their lawsuit was aimed at blocking the public playtest, labeling the game as a quote slavish clone end quote of the Horizon IP. And I mean, yeah, absolutely it was. Like, come on now, with just a cursory glance at the trailer, the similarities were clear as day. But Tencent has recently filed a motion to dismiss the claim, calling it quote an improper attempt to fence off a well-trodden corner of popular culture and declare it Sony's exclusive domain end quote. They went on to accuse Sony of quote an impermissible monopoly on genre conventions by suing an unrelated project that merely employs these same time-honored tropes embraced by scores of other games released both before and after Horizon, like Enslaved, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Far Cry Primal, and many more, end quote. And I mean, like, sure, I can see their point, but it's also like, come on, bro, that's a bit of a stretch. While Enslaved certainly shares a similar setting, I don't think anyone would look at its characters and its melee martial arts combat and think, wow, this looks just like Horizon. There's a pretty obvious line between inspiration and imitation, and Light of Motorum was very deliberately leaning on the imitation side to coax players in. I mean, you can't look at these side-by-side images of its red-headed main character, its creature designs, hell, its splash art, and convince me that they aren't intentionally laying bait for Horizon fans. I do hope that Light of Motorum does see the light of day eventually, because from a gameplay standpoint, it does look kind of cool. Like Horizon, it seems to take cues from Monster Hunter, and I'm always down for more of that, since there aren't too many offerings in that space. But at the moment, I don't know, man, the similarities are just too blatant, and I just can't see Tencent coming out the other side unscathed without a complete overhaul of Light of Motorum's art direction. The lawsuit news doesn't end there, though. The long-running Subnautica 2 debacle has only been getting more heated, as Krafton has now rescinded their claims that game readiness was the cause of them firing Subnautica 2's lead developers. This news comes courtesy of PC Gamer, who report that Krafton has dismissed requests for documents proving that Subnautica 2 was not ready for early access launch, apparently suggesting that such documents were irrelevant to the termination. Both the presiding judge and the firm representing the former leaders remarked that this was both, quote, a seismic shift in the case and a little bewildering, end quote. PC Gamer suggests that Krafton is focusing its argument on the idea that the former leaders, quote, abandoned their posts and deceived Krafton, end quote. So that's kind of sus, but Krafton's alleged flip-flopping was later supported by a report from GamesIndustry.biz. Krafton requested a protective order and forensic inspection of the former leadership, now alleging that the firing was in response to the former leaders downloading, quote, confidential company information of nearly every type, end quote, after being threatened with potential termination. Well, they didn't get far with that claim, as the ousted leader successfully blocked this motion, stating that Krafton, quote, pivoted to a new theory that it admittedly came up with only after the fact that it terminated the founders and seized control because the founders backed up files they were entitled to access, end quote. So yeah, a very messy case, and if this reporting is to be believed, Krafton really isn't doing themselves any favors by shifting the goalposts. Before we go on, a quick word from this video sponsor, Eureka Ergonomics, who are just about to release their all-new Matthias office chair. I have a lot of Eureka furniture at this point: standing desk, display cabinet, a coffee table with a sneaky refrigerator built into it. But the Matthias may be Eureka's classiest piece yet, channeling a timeless, elegant, lounge-inspired design into something that delivers all-day comfort in your home or office. Made with real top-grain leather and with a sculpted walnut veneer, this is a chair that becomes a statement piece in whatever room it's in. I have long ago sworn off the classic gamer chairs, terrible ergonomics, and I just don't like the look of them anymore, but I absolutely love my Matthias. I think it completes my office, and it's so plush and so well designed that I can spend hours in it without ever feeling uncomfortable. If you'd like to grab one, Eureka are offering a special discount to viewers of this channel. Use offer code SKILLUP at checkout to get 8% off, and if you're getting quick to pre-order, you can get a further $50 off, making this an absolute steal. Click below to check that out. Thanks Eureka for sponsoring the video, and with that, let's get back to the news. A quick lightning round to finish off. Fortnite is going full Roblox, soon allowing creators to sell in-game items. In case you're not in the loop, players are able to essentially create their own games within Fortnite now using the Unreal Editor. These are available as islands that other players can visit, and as per an announcement by Epic Games, soon these players will be able to sell custom assets they've made for those islands. Quote, in December, developers were able to sell items directly from their Fortnite islands, opening up new revenue potential, in addition to receiving engagement payouts from Fortnite item shop sales. Developers will ordinarily earn 50% of the V-Bucks values from sales on their islands, but from December 2025 through to the end of 2026, the rate will be 100%, end quote. Post suggests that creators will claim 74% of their sales directly into their pocket versus the comparatively meager 25% that Roblox offers. It goes on to outline how creators will also be paid for encouraging player engagement, something that Roblox doesn't allow for at all. Given the fact that Epic already runs the Unreal Marketplace where people can sell assets for game creation, it makes a lot of sense that they'd hook Fortnite into something similar. A huge reason Roblox has gotten as popular as it has is because people are able to create their own ecosystems and create incentives for players to return to the game outside of what the developers themselves offer. Fortnite has thus far been unable to surpass Roblox's numbers, even with their more polished gameplay and flexible creation tools, but now, who knows? I wonder if they'll let us pay with Kojima's new credit card. Somewhat related to that Sony lawsuit news, Nintendo have their own lawsuit battle going on against Pocket Pair, the developers of Power World. According to GamesRight, Pocket Pair has attempted to invalidate Nintendo's recent patent attempts, pointing to popular mods in other games as evidence that Pokemon's designs and mechanics were currently being used elsewhere. In response, Nintendo has claimed that mods should not be considered as prior art as they require a game to run on. That is a really dumb suggestion, in that it disregards the work and creativity of all mod makers and dismisses the fact that all games require external software to run on, like the game engine and the hardware's operating system. As IGN points out, it also has dangerous implications for the modding scene, as it would mean that mod developers could no longer be protected by patent law and that their work could be stolen by bigger studios for full game releases, where those creations would then be protected. Basically, imagine if Bethesda could just take the entire Fallout London mod, which introduced completely new art assets, questlines, and more, and then drop it directly into a surprise Fallout 4 DLC, with the creators receiving no compensation at all. Fortunately, it is very unlikely that Nintendo's claim will gain traction, and it's just another instance of Nintendo being Nintendo. Dying Light the Beast has been heavily censored in Japan, according to Automaton. It was toned down to meet their highest age classification, with changes like, quote, remove depictions of internal organs, modifications to infected female characters, remove depictions of dismemberment, and remove nudity. I mean, I'm sure some of the appeal is lost at that point, but hey, at least there seems to be plenty more to enjoy about the game outside of that stuff, as the reviews for this one are actually pretty good. Some quick sales milestones to finish off. The official Skate Twitter account revealed that the game has had over 2 million players in one day, despite it still sitting at 59% mixed on Steam at the time of writing due to server issues and bugs soft-locking progression. It seems like people are actually enjoying themselves. I'm sure the fact that it's free to play certainly helps. Another game doing numbers despite its technical shortcomings is Borderlands 4. According to an analytics company known as LNA Analytics, Borderlands 4 has sold over 2.5 million copies between Steam and consoles, generating over $150 million in revenue. Note that those stats don't come directly from Gearbox, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were true, since those who aren't hindered by its technical shortcomings appear to be having a really good time with it. Man, imagine how many copies this thing would have sold if Randy Pitchford didn't have access to social media. We can only dream. And finally, not a whole lot to shout out in terms of sort of free stuff this week. On the Epic Store, you can get a point-and-click adventure game called Jor-El's Brother and the Most Important Game in the Galaxy, which is apparently based on a Brazilian animation, as well as Eastern Exorcist, which is a nice little 2D action RPG that's a really big hit in China, but didn't make much of a splash in English-speaking markets. It is the last week of the month, by the way. Be sure to download all of the goodies at places like Prime Gaming and the PSN before they reset, and we'll check in next week to see what new goodies await us. So outside of those showcases, what got announced or delayed this week? Well, quite a bit, actually. You may have missed that something called the 6-1 Indie Showcase happened last week, which ran for over an hour and a half, and it was filled with a bunch of indie games, both new and upcoming. Way more than we can squeeze into this show, but we'll give you a few shout outs. Gloomy Juncture is a very unsettling neo-noir detective game set in the 1990s, where you play as a janitor on the verge of a mental breakdown, with the seal of approval from Swery65 and a free demo out now. Undermire is a neat-looking first-person co-op roguelike with a 2D, 3D Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic, where you can smush everyday items to make weird weapons like you're a kid playing make-believe. And finally, Penguin Colony is a very ominous-looking thriller from the Australian-New Zealand developers behind Urumanji Generation. Bit of a cryptic trailer, but it's also got a Shadow of the Colossus stamina bar, a vibe straight out of John Carpenter's The Thing, and the narrator from Disco Elysium, and those are all good things. Outside the showcase, the developers of Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, that game that was like, well, if Sega isn't going to make a new Jet Set Radio, we will. They announced a follow-up called Hyperfunk, which will make anyone old enough to have owned a Dreamcast super happy. No debt yet, but kind of crazy that they might put out 2 of these before Sega manages to get one one out as part of their super game thing or whatever that ends up being. Speaking of crazy, you'd think if you were Pocket Pair and you developed a game that was dangerously close to knocking off Pokemon, so close that Nintendo filed a bunch of patents in order to sue you over it, you probably would be very careful about the timing of your next game, right? Well, not so much, I guess. So remember how at the Nintendo Direct, one of the bigger reveals was that Pokemon farming sim called Pokemon Pocopia? Guess what? The Palworld people just announced a Palworld farming sim called Palworld Pal Farm. Okay, so I'm sure that both companies individually had these games in the works for quite some time now, because of course they did. But man, this little dance of theirs that they're doing, it's just too entertaining to watch, and it's never going to get old. So what came out last week? Well, Dying Light: The Beast was probably the biggest game from last week, with the gritty open world zombie game landing at a strong 82 on OpenCritic. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10 and basically echoed the common sentiment. Quote, its signature blend of parkour and melee-focused combat remains largely the same, but there's certainly nothing wrong with having more Dying Light, end quote. Perhaps to be expected from something that started as a DLC, but hey, Techland knows their audience. Ratatan was that rhythm strategy game from the folks who made Patapon, and it landed in early access with an 87% very positive rating on Steam. The rub with the Steam reviews is that people are mostly commenting that this is not Patapon, which is either a bad thing or an interesting thing, depending on who you ask. Here's Steam user Rip the Blood, who has 40 hours in it already, and wrote a very comprehensive review saying, quote, in its current state, it's a mixed bag with how simple the gameplay loop is coupled with early access, but the future looks really bright with a lot planned and already backed by a Kickstarter. Highly recommend for people that love rhythm games. On the fence for most other people, try the demo, then decide if you want to purchase, as it reflects the game very well, end quote. Another early access release was Amplitude's 4X game Endless Legend 2. Not as many reviews for this one, just shy of 200 at the time of writing, but 91% of them are positive, with the general sentiment being, we are so back. Here's Steam user Darsaid, who reviewed it after just 3 hours, saying, quote, honestly amazing for early access. Amplitude took the best from humankind and improved all the lovely aspects of the first Endless Legend. Was doubtful about playing it, but now I'm just having a blast, end quote. Very quick check-in with our radar pick for last week, Wonder Stars, a strong 79 on OpenCritic, though not many reviews. Over on Steam, though, it's 98% positive. Here's Steam user Zodi162, who has 23 hours in it, saying, quote, this is seriously such a clever game. The battle mechanics are unlike anything I've ever seen, and they're really fun. The story is super gripping, and I'm always super excited to play the next episode, and the music is honestly crazy good, like holy crap, end quote. Jumping now, what is probably going to be one of the most loved or hated, or maybe both at the same time, games of the year, Baby Steps. Punishing walking simulator from Bennett Foddy and the Ape Out developers has landed at a fair 74 on OpenCritic. But man, is there some variety here, with even the most glowing reviews talking about absolutely hating the game at times. But look, here's Polygon. They don't score things, but the conclusion sums it up. Quote, Baby Steps is meant to infuriate you. It's designed to test your patience with deviously placed setbacks that will eat up an entire session's worth of progress with no remorse. You'll laugh, you'll swear, you'll probably quit at least once, but you'll see it through to the end. You'll find prizes waiting for you that are more powerful than any cool sword, grace, compassion, and a good place to piss, end quote. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we're all really looking for? So what's coming out this week? Man, oh man, it is a huge week for games, both big and small. And while I don't want to leave too many games on the cutting room floor, I will have to go through these as quickly as possible because there are a lot of notable games this week. Let's start with, I guess you could call it an indie title from a relatively small studio based in the US. It's Hades 2, which kind of pulled a Silk Song by announcing its release date just a couple of weeks ago in the Nintendo Direct. The difference here being that it's been in early access for a little while now, and many people have enjoyed it for quite some time. Overwhelmingly positive on Steam with almost 40,000 reviews. Yeah, I suspect it's actually pretty good. Version 1.0 drops on Thursday, September 25th to complete the narrative on PC, and it'll be a timed console exclusive for the Switch 2. For those of you yet to play it and are wondering how different could it possibly be from the first one, the answer is very. Trust us, having a magic caster as a protagonist changes absolutely everything. One more indie before we move on to the big boys of Thursday, one called Consume Me, which is coming out on PC. This is a game about growing up as a high school girl and dealing with all the shit that comes with that. Kind of a management RPG that's a really fun mix of Persona style time scheduling mixed with WarioWare minigames. This game won the grand prize at this year's Independent Games Festival Awards, as well as the Innovation Prize. And when the past recipients of these prizes have been games like Inscription, Obra Dinn, and Outer Wilds, you know you gotta pay attention to it. Ed's played through this one and strongly recommends it. Very charming with a compelling gameplay loop. He's got a full review for that up on the website right now, and he's also got a post-mortem interview with one of the creators in the works. Look forward to that appearing on the website very soon. All right, you thought high schoolers could be edgy? Well, not as edgy as Sonic and Friends. If you ever played Mario Kart and wish the character screen was full of colorful anthropomorphic animals that all kind of look the same, then Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is your game. Reviews of this one came out nice and early, and they've been generally very positive. It sounded like it's driving along the same route as Mario Kart 8 did with its approach, instead of the open world detour stuff that Mario Kart kart world was chasing. I have genuinely no idea who half these characters are though, but the crossover appearances are really cool. Anyway, all platforms for this one. The last one for Thursday is of course Silent Hill F, the next mainline game in the series that Konami kind of dropped the ball on for a while, along with everything else they were doing, but it's well and truly back with the Taiwanese studio Neobards handling this one. It's set in 1960s Japan with its traditional mix of combat, puzzle solving, and psychological based horror, and there's a big question mark around why the Silent Hill mist is suddenly happening in this rural town, and having played it, my review is up on the channel now, I can say that it is definitely worth trying to get to the bottom of that question. I really, really loved this. I thought it was fantastic. But, you know, it's not going to be for everyone. It's got a bit of a divisive story. It's definitely quite a departure from the traditional Silent Hill formula. So if you want to check it out for yourself, it's available PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. Moving on to Friday, September 26th, which is just a stat because all the indies were like, oh shit, Thursday's too much for us. First up, we've got Hotel Barcelona, which is a collaboration between cult Japanese game makers Swery65 and Suda51, a 2D combat roguelike where you're fighting your way through a grindhouse world, and every time you die, an echo of that run will persist, helping you to get further. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles for that one. Overpit was one of the games that had to get the hell out of Silksong's way a couple of weeks back, and the week it chose had Hades 2 in it, so you really can't win. This is a grimy, Inscription-like slot machine roguelike, which by all accounts is incredibly compelling, so much so that I've been told that this can be a 30-hour game at least. Hope this one gets past the international ratings board okay, but something tells me the fact that the slot machine says, let's go gambling every time you start a run isn't going to help. PC only for this one. One from Australia now, Mars First Logistics is a sandbox construction game made mostly by 2 developers, all about building custom rovers to haul cargo from A to B on procedurally generated planets. Imagine the Ultra Hand stuff from Tears of the Kingdom meets Death Stranding, and that's basically this game. It's very cool. It's been in early access for a little while now, and it's another game going into 1.0 this week. Overwhelmingly positive reviews on this one too, and some of the user creations are, quite frankly, absolutely insane. Love that. Jumping over to next week now, and it does not slow down, folks. On Monday the 29th, we've got another Aussie game, Survival Extraction Macabre, which is heading into early access. We'll definitely keep our eye on that one. And speaking of Macabre, we've also got the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection from Digital Eclipse, who are giving their excellent interactive documentary treatment to one of the most infamous series of all time, as well as collecting and preserving a bunch of classic games in the process. These are always super well done. Really recommend checking them out. The Mortal Kombat one is releasing on all platforms. Then it's on to Tuesday. We've got another classic release in Final Fantasy Tactics: The Evilest Chronicles, which is also coming out on every platform. This is of course the much requested remaster of the cult favorite game, and now comes with voice performances and some graphical improvements too. It's joined by Nicktoons and the Dice of Destiny, which is the perfect game if you've ever played Diablo and thought, man, this is great, but what if one of the classes was SpongeBob? Weird premise, I'm sure, but that's a gap that developers have been ignoring for far too long. PC, PS5, Xbox, and Switch for that one. And finally, on Wednesday, October 1st, we've got Lego Party, which is another Australian game from our pals at SMG. I actually played this one when I was over at the Summer Game Service. I had a great time with it. Yeah, it's basically Mario Party, but with Lego stuff, but it's incredibly well made, and it was really fun, and I had an absolute blast. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It is also headed to all platforms. All right, ladies and gents, it's that time of the week, so put this on your radar.
You and I will never be apart.
Where did this letter come from? That would only confirm the other girl's suspicions about Miss Carroll's potential elopement.
But don't you understand, Miss Hinman? If that was the case, what would be the point of burning this letter? It's already been several weeks since Carol left. And then that mysterious boy.
No, this is not a new Disney game, though we kind of wish they could take more swings like this. This is a game called Bye Sweet Carol, which is riffing on the mid-century classical animation style to tell their dark narrative horror story. Play a young woman in England at the turn of the 20th century as she tries to find her missing friend and uncover what kind of fucked up things happened at an orphanage, one of the most terrifying places in this period of history, if movies and books have taught me anything. And gameplay-wise, it's giving a lot of Clock Tower vibes with its 2D take on survival horror. That combo has definitely piqued our interest, and best of all, the developers have been really clear about the fact that no AI was used in the making of this game, which to be honest with you, is actually a rarity these days. This one comes out on the 9th of October for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles, and if you like the look of it, you can check it out over on our Steam curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This in Your Radar stuff we've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Huge show this week, so a quick feel good to finish. Earlier in the show, I alluded to a cheeky logo that appeared during the Xbox showcase that probably shouldn't have been there. See if you can spot it in this clip.
No matter how you play, this new handheld ensures your Xbox experience is always with you.
Did you see it? Okay, so maybe calling it a logo isn't technically correct, but if you zoom in on this still, you will see something that probably should have been cleaned up in post. Stu, enhance. Boom, there it is, baby. Activate Windows. The Xbox marketing team is just like us, For real. Okay, ladies and gents, I'm off to play some Ghosts of Yotei now since I'm still working on my review for that one. I'm also working on some Battlefield stuff, and the Friends Per Second podcast goes live this weekend. Plus, thisweekinvideogames.com is always there to give you even more news coverage and in-depth perspectives. Like just this week, we posted a new column from the Among Us community manager, Victoria Tran, about why developers choose to delay their games to avoid big releases, like what happened recently with Silksong. A really great, insightful read available to supporters of the site. So do visit thisweekinvideogames.com to check that out. Link below the like button. Speaking of the like button, don't forget to smash it and subscribe so you can come back next week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.